All right. Hi, welcome to the Threat Protection Workshop in the Ignite Learning Zone. My name is Adam Barron, and I'm on the security marketing team, and I'm joining you today from sunny Maple Valley, Washington, just outside of Seattle. We're really excited for this all-digital version of Ignite, obviously a huge milestone and something super new for all of us. And if this is the first workshop you're taking at Ignite this year, the workshops are designed to be a great place to get started with Microsoft's learning solutions. There's lots of learning opportunities. And so today we're going to take you through some of that around threat protection. And I'm joined today by a set of experts from our engineering teams that can help answer all your questions across the variety of threat protection solutions at Microsoft. So if you have questions, please put those in the chat window or the Q&A window, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. All right. Now, first of all, what I want to do is just introduce those experts. So as you can see, we have a variety of those experts. We've got Zvi from the M365 Defender team, Jeff and Heike from Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Ed from Microsoft Defender for Office 365, Ty from Microsoft Defender for Identity, and Itamar from Microsoft Cloud App Security. So we've got a wide group of folks that are all going to be able to help us to answer any of your questions today. So again, feel free to put those in the Q&A window. And as we get started, I mentioned at the beginning that Microsoft has a wide array of learning opportunities. Because you can see on this quick screen grab here, these are all designed to help you get going as you continue your journey of learning at Microsoft, especially around security. Whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned expert, we've got lots of great resources. We have things like learning paths for you to go in and get started to understand the depth resources that you have. You can take instructor-led classes, all to sort of culminate in the certifications that we've got. We have both an MS 500 and an Azure security certification all around the security solutions today. Now, those topics from a learning path perspective cover a variety of elements. They cover the full gamut from identity to threat protection, cloud security and Azure security, as well as information protection and compliance. So this really is your one-stop place to go get all the learning capabilities from Microsoft around security, compliance, and identity. And today, our workshop is going to drill down into that threat protection learning path. And today's workshop, these are new experiences for all of us. So it's going to be a little bit different. What we're going to go do, first of all, with Microsoft, the threat protection capabilities, is we're going to learn a little bit about the new announcements we made at Ignite this morning, if you didn't see them already in the keynote from Vasu. We're going to talk a little bit about how Defender is now the most extensive XDR solution in the market. Then we're going to do a super deep dive demo led by our engineering experts to show you Microsoft 365 Defender in action. Then we're going to close with an overview of the learning path that you can go get started with today, and you can ask any questions of any of the folks on this call, and we'll do our best to answer all those questions for you. So with that in mind, we really want to start, grounding everyone in our threat protection solutions. Today's threat landscape really requires a new worldview, and we think of that as a zero trust worldview. This worldview really requires an incredible understanding of your environment. You have to be able to understand who's accessing what in an identity, the devices, the apps, the infrastructure, and the data. At some levels, it seems it's almost requires you to know everything about all the elements of your environment all the time. And it has to work with everything that you care about across clouds, across OS platforms, and applications, whether those are Microsoft's or not. It's a tough task, but it's one that gets easier with our solutions for Microsoft. If we look at this diagram and starting at the center, Microsoft has an approach to both broaden and deepen your understanding of your entire estate and everything going on inside of it. This is driven off of two central pillars that help inform all of what we do. One is this idea of machine learning, and machine learning helps to is driven by our unique breadth of data. Microsoft has a massive amount of signal, and it has more comprehensive signal across modern workplace and cloud infrastructure, which gives you faster insights with greater accuracy. And then second, Microsoft employs thousands of researchers and engineers, like the folks we'll have on the call today, to help drive to understand these new macro trends around security, the threat landscapes, as well as unique attacks, and then anomalies for these and helping you understand anomalies for your individual company. These insights are built into, one slide too many. These insights are built into our products to help superpower your security teams in a couple of ways. First, that's protection. You think about your security teams have the ability with Microsoft solutions to stay on top of any new attacks in a really efficient way. Very few of our customers say they have enough security resources to take care of all of the security tasks. So being able to provide tools that automate responses and in some cases respond entirely automatically really helps to drive efficiency inside of a SOC. And all of this helps save your team time and lets them focus on critical items. Then there's this idea of prevention. Being able to stay on top of the endless to-do list of everything that you need to do to make attacks useless to begin with is sometimes daunting. And the things like updating devices and configurations is sometimes a thankless task. It's the thing about hygiene here is that it's essential. Sometimes it's thankless and it's never ending. So being able to help automate and drive more consistency around prevention is really critical. And so there's two key solutions that we have in this space. The first one is Azure Sentinel. This is our cloud-powered SIEM that gives you a breadth of insight across all of the tools in one place. And then there's Microsoft Defender, which gives you depth of insight on your modern workplace and your cloud infrastructure. Now let's take a quick second to talk about Sentinel. We're going to focus on Microsoft 365 Defender today, but I wanted to just spend a minute on Sentinel. First of all, Sentinel is Microsoft's cloud-native SIEM solution. This is not an on-prem tool that's been ported to the cloud. It's brand new. It's built for the world of cloud-connected data. It scales across any data and any workload. And we announced even today a variety of new connectors that you can put additional data into Microsoft Sentinel, or excuse me, Azure Sentinel. And of course, Azure Sentinel is powered by AI and this idea of Microsoft security brain in the cloud. All the telemetry and data that we see makes Microsoft solutions and Azure Sentinel smarter over time. Of course, Azure Sentinel works best with our Defender elements, with our Defender suite, Microsoft 365 Defender and Azure Defender. This really is this best end-to-end threat protection. And we continue to invest in Sentinel. We were recently announcing this idea of IoT support with our acquisition of CyberX. We're adding new user and entity behavioral analytics tools. This is a huge ask for customers. And we have threat integration information from Threat Quotient, and we have a variety of elements there as well. So it's even easier to connect your data to the cloud with all the connectors that we're creating. So that's a little bit about Sentinel. Now we think about the second solution in this tool, the idea of Microsoft Defender. Microsoft Defender, in this case, is Microsoft's complete cross-domain protection across end-user computing and infrastructure. And we're making a variety of changes today. We're actually changing some names and making Microsoft Defender our lead product here. So Microsoft Defender, as you can see on the slide, is made up of two things. It's Microsoft 365 Defender, formerly known as Microsoft Threat Protection, and Azure Defender, which is formerly the cloud workload protection elements inside Azure Security Center. So this Azure Defender tool is all native and built into your Azure workloads today. It has a massive adoption. It's already protecting 95% of the VMs in Azure. And it's now cross-cloud. This is a super important part of the story. It allows you to extend those controls to on-prem with Azure Arc, and now to GCP and AWS workloads. And you have one control plane and management fabric to understand your security across your entire estate. And then today, the second element is Microsoft Defender, right? Microsoft Defender, as we fast forward, here's Microsoft 365 Defender is this fully integrated cross-domain XDR, or extended detection and response solution. It provides your organization with the ability to prevent, detect, investigate, and remediate cross-domain attacks within their Microsoft 365 environment. And those domains are identity, endpoints, cloud apps, email, and docs. So this is an important element because Microsoft 365 helps you automatically detect these breaches across these domains, do analysis, and it correlates this data to turn siloed alerts into end-to-end incidents that help tell a story with context and timeline of how an attack is entered, how it spreads across your environment, and it enables you to proactively hunt across your M365 data and helps you search for breaches and helps you gain a better understanding of your data to help build custom detection and remediation tools. And if we talk about these domains for just a second, Microsoft 365 really is both a best of suite integrated set of capabilities and a best in class set of tools across each of these domains. We think about identity, that's really protected by Azure Active Directory Identity Protection, Microsoft Cloud App Security, and now Microsoft Defender for Identity, which was formerly Azure Advanced Threat Protection. On the endpoint side, this is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, formerly Microsoft Defender Advanced Threat Protection, a leader in Gartner's Magic Quadrant. And apps, Microsoft Cloud App Security is our lead here. Microsoft Defender for Office 365, which used to be Office 365 ATP, which also protects email and documents. So really, when you integrate these products, your security perimeter becomes even stronger. Microsoft 365 leverages all the raw signal from these individual domains, identity, endpoint, apps, email, and docs, and then analyzes that signal to bring that together into those incidents like I talked about. So then you get a whole bunch of really powerful workflow and AI to help auto heal and really automatically remediate against attacks. So this is a super important part, again, across Azure Defender, Microsoft 365 Defender coming together with Microsoft Defender. So, like I said, that correlation of data into this integrated incident view is what we're going to focus on today. And this is where it really comes to life. And so with that, we're going to switch over to our engineering counterpart, Zvi, who's going to join us and do a demo of how Microsoft 365 Defender actually brings this to life. So Zvi, I'm going to turn it over to you now, and I'm looking forward to seeing Microsoft 365 Defender in action.
Hi, everyone. Adam, can you just confirm everybody can hear me?
I can sure hear you.
Hey. So good day, everyone. Name is Ben-Sheffer. I'm a program manager on the Microsoft Threat Protection Engineering team. And probably for the next 30 minutes, maybe more, we'll take our time. I'll try to walk you through that integrated solution of Microsoft 365 Defender. I'm probably less capable of following the name changes as good as Adam did, but I'll do my best. So I'm going to share my screen here. A moment. Forgot to do that. Okay, cool. And I'm going to walk you through Microsoft 365 Defender. But first, before we do that, I'm going to set the stage and maybe give you an appetite to go and learn more about the individual solution as well as the overall XDR suite by actually trying to put ourselves for a moment in the shoes of a security operation analyst looking at various alerts coming from various platforms. And in this case, all of the Microsoft platforms, that's what I'm using for the demo, but your reality could be multiple kind of best of breed solutions that completely behave and look different and have different type of, let's get this out of the way, that have different terminology, different portals, different locations, everything. So I'll connect all that together toward as we progress through the demo, but let's start with a day of an analyst that's looking at, in this case, looking at cloud app security. We're looking at, email, Microsoft Defender for email, and looking at an alert. In this case, this was an alert with malware that was detected after delivery, and our solution went into a ZAP capability, went and cleaned, but there is still our concern that Barbara and Roberto here on these two email accounts may have received that email and something happened. So me as a SOC at that point, just try to go to the mental note of what am I going through. I probably want to check what happened with these two users to his two emails accounts. So I'll need to find out what machines they have. I'll probably need to go into another portal, another solution, plug in these machines and go and look at their timeline around the time of delivery here to see if something was downloaded, something was clicked, something progressed from the fact that they actually received that email and I was not able to clean them out of their mailboxes in time. And I may want to go into maybe my identity solution if I have one, and kind of look at the status of these. Was there any suspicious login? Was there anything out of bound done with their user? I may want to even go into my CASB user in Microsoft Cloud App Security and see if under that user there's any access to new types of applications, there's any login into any of their cloud applications right after that email was received. So I have a lot of questions that I want to ask, and that's a single alert that I'm getting on my system, and I'm probably going to now have a list of things before I can actually dismiss that as benign, nothing happened, or have more questions and go down the investigation. Let's look at another alert. We know now, because I'm going to do a demo, that they're all connected, but let's look at another alert. This alert has a different user. This one is a partial credential set from NTTS. So someone dropped the domain server NTDS file. That's a completely different alert. We have different use here. There is some information about the severity of the alert. Again, a lot of information I can go and do research from here, but what I would probably try to understand, again, the status of that user, who connected, where did that come from. I can see the command line that ran in order to dump this file and copy it into the C drive. So I learned a lot, but I still don't have a full scope. I understand that something probably not as good unless this is a benign activity and maybe Janet is someone that should be doing this activity. But I got an alert and I need now to correlate it across other things that are happening. Let's look at just another one. So this is from our advanced threat protection on Active Directory. So Microsoft Defender for Identity as the new name. And I have another alert. And this is a suspected overpass the hash attack. And in this case, now I may be able to start connecting it because I see that the resource that actually connected and used Roberto's credentials was Barbara. That's the same user that I had on our alert for the email that was received. So at this point, I'm probably understanding that I have an issue. There was an email that was received. There was some activity from Barbara using credentials of Roberto to log into a DC. This, me knowing my IT information, I don't know that this is my DC. We named it easy to understand. And again, I have a lot of questions. What's the connection? What happened? Did I lose basically control over Barbara's PC? Does someone have Barbara's credentials? Is this malicious? What else? What other users got hit by maybe that same email or this type of phish? I have a lot of questions, and I'm jumping in between these kind of views and portals to try and stitch everything together. So the daily work that we have on the huge amount of alerts, be it we are individual teams that if we have a very big SOC team, then we're maybe specializing on remediating and protecting our endpoint, and there's another team specializing on stuff that's coming from email, and there's another one that's looking at identity. In that case, they will probably need to meet at some point, open a OneNote, open an Excel sheet, like we do in Microsoft, start dropping them all these IOCs and stuff, and start stitching the picture together. It's time consuming, it's a manual process, and for a lot of that, we can probably apply what we're building in terms of logic to build incidents and apply automation to try and help you get ahead of the curve. So with that, I'll go into a different view. Let's close these individual alerts. We'll probably get back to them into the story. And what we did with Microsoft 365 Defender is actually connect these 4 domains into one integrated solution. And this is not connecting them at the portal level only and connecting them so you to have one comfortable place to go and do all your work. This is them actually joining them at the hip. These solutions are now talking to each other, and think about endpoint alert and the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint can go and basically, if you want the logic of the detection, can go and query the status of the user, which underneath that alert privileges was run. And that level of alert could change for that individual solution even before we connect that all to an incident based on the status of the user or something that came through email before that, or some suspicious activity that happened in his that we found on CASB. So the individual solutions work better when they can actually make decisions based on data that's available across multiple workloads and not just looking through the keyhole only of the problem, let's say, of email without understanding what actually continued happening on endpoint or the level of integrity of the user, for example. Here on the incident, we're actually changing the way that SecOps start working. So versus working on hundreds of, sorry, versus working on hundreds of individual alerts from verticals and different workloads that you have, start thinking about working on the level of an incident. And some of these could be 50 alerts cobbled together, and some of them could be only one alert. And you will ask, why should we need to create an incident from one alert? And the answer is that this is also an important information. To know that this is a singular event, that is, we couldn't correlate to anything else that's happening in your environment, is also something that will help your SOC make the decision. Should I prioritize that? Is it benign? Do I know what it means? There's other machines involved. On the other hand, I can collapse 50, we see hundreds of alerts sometimes collapse into a single incident. For example, if you have a good email campaign happening against your organization, good meaning the attacker is good, you may have hundreds of associated emails that may be polymorphic, and the body can change, the sender can change, the attachment can change, but still we can associate them to the same campaign, and we can collapse all that into one incident, helping you understand the scope and helping you see whatever is part of that. So I'm going to dive into one of these. We can name them, we are naming them here in our demo tenant just for us to easy. What the system will do automatically for you is actually try to create a meaningful name for you based on what was part of that. So the multi-stage incident involving privilege escalation, multiple endpoints reported by multiple sources indicates that we have a multi-stage incidents. We can see here the detection sources. My apologies that our naming convention will take more time to change on software than on marketing slides. So expect these to change on the product into the new names, but you can see here the detection sources of Azure ATP, our EDR, Microsoft Cloud App Security, custom TI that we fed into the system, antivirus detections, Office ATP detections, and even alerts that I'll show you shortly that were only possible when you're connecting multiple data sets. So this Microsoft Threat Protection alert is not an individual workload alert. It's an alert that has been possible by stitching together two types of events that together had been elevated to an alert. And we couldn't do that without actually connecting these multiple data sets. So I'm going to take this one, which is quite a very extensive attack that we took by compromising Barbara's machine, as you saw in some of these alerts, and she will then do some reconnaissance, eventually get Roberto, which is an admin credentials. There is login to a domain server, dump of files over there, and at the end, this ends up in exfiltration. But what I want to show you through this demo is the overview that you can actually get very quickly as a SecOps to understand the scope, and then how deep easily you can go into each one of these individual alerts and finish by doing some advanced hunting and show you how you can expand that over the full data set, ask more questions, and create your custom detections based on what happened. So first thing you will see is you will land on the summary page. The summary page will try to give you at a glance the information that we have about that incident. You can get a little bit more information here on the side, when it started, who is it assigned to, how is it classified. This one we already closed. There are other incidents that this is associated to. We are attacking that environment, this is our dev environment, over and over every week. So they look the same, they have the same, if you want, entities. So there is some hint here that other things that may pop up in your environment if another campaign started and it has similar indications to something that happened in the past. Okay, so you may want to associate that. I'm going to close that for a moment. We can see all the alerts, or at least the main ones that were popped as part of that incident, and we can start reading and threading to that. We can see all the entities that were found on that. I'm going to jump into the alert page itself, and let's try to understand a little bit better what is part of that. Again, to the right, you can see the detection source that raised that specific alert, the time, the impacted entity, be it a device, be it a user, whatever is that. Status, oops, that was good. Sorry for that. Let's re-authenticate and go back. Hopefully that's not going to happen again. This has been idling for a while, so it had to re-authenticate us. Okay, let's see if that works. Great. So here you can see that by actually collecting all that together, you can already understand the amount of work that we solved for the SOC analyst. Even at tier 1 level, I'm able to actually read through that incident with even not very deep understanding of everything that happened here and have a good idea of the chain of events that happened, probably ending with credential theft and exploitation of data outside of an organization. I can quickly look at the number of devices that were impacted, and I'll show you how we go into that in a moment. I can look at the users that have been impacted as part of this attack. I can look at the mailboxes that have been injected, and I will see all the automated investigation that kicked in as part of that and tried during the attack to actually go and auto-heal the environment for you as this was unfolding, and also a list of all the evidence if you want to go and investigate and vet each one of them, which one was suspicious, which one was actually vetted malicious, and what was remediated for you. So let's go back to the alert page and try to dive. I have some questions, so I'll go and look at some a deeper alert in this case. So in this case, this is a Defender Advanced Threat Protection, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint alert. And in this case, I can see that this was remediated. I'll see the alert story populate in a moment. Probably too many people doing too many demos in the same time. I'll get back to it in a moment. With respect to that, I'm going to go straight into the investigation that followed. So what happened here is our auto IR capability or self-healing capability kicked in based on a specific alert. So while we do have a whole dictionary of detections, if you want, indications of compromise or indications of attack, and we have these traps or alerts across the 4 workloads that feed into this, we also have a dictionary of playbooks and in auto investigations that can actually kick in based on a specific type of alert and go and do investigation proactively on that alert, vet the entities or the findings of this investigation by comparing them to VirusTotal, reputation of IPs, running them through a live sandbox that we have in the cloud, in order to understand if we have something which is vetted malicious. If we have something that's vetted malicious and we can do something about that, based on what workloads you have connected and how you configure your system, it will take actions if you are actually running fully automated mode. Maybe a moment to pause and say, our auto IR system can run in semi-automated mode or fully automated mode. It can be customized to run on certain devices, device groups, and users in your organization, or not run based on sensitivity. You can do automated for some of the groups, semi-automated for other ones. You may want to have a live SOC analyst vet a isolate machine decision on Satya's machine, for example, manually before we actually go and isolate this machine. But for other machines that are less, let's say, on your critical business applications, you may want to stop that right away automatically and prevent the spread of the attack in your organization. So in this case, the investigation kicks in. We actually were able to analyze 3,000 files, process it up and loaded in memory drivers, IP addresses connected, persistent methods. It will actually go to a library of persistent methods and see if anything happened on the machine. And at the end of the day, it remediated that specific document, cleaned it off machines. That was that specific action that it could take against that endpoint. So go back to the alert. Actually, going to the alert queue, and I wanted to show you another case of an investigation. So let me go back into the incident. Lost my track here. Let's look at a different type of investigation. Nope, that's not the one that I want. Okay, I'm going to go into this we did already. So let's look at another interesting one down the attack itself. Let's look at suspicious credential theft. On the activity, wanted to show you here the rich actually timeline of the alert itself, the full process tree that we can actually look on that full incident tree to understand how we progressed and went down from the service that executed, what was run, get the information about, open that on the Saipan and get a little bit more information about that. All the alerts that was associated in that tree, there's several alerts that all part of that tree of events that happened, all that activity. I'm going to go back into the incident and actually look at the users that have been impacted and see how much I can learn about the user itself. So,
hello?
Yes.
That's what I figured.
Oh, that's where my Siri kicking in and helping me in my presentation. Sorry. By fact that we are stitching all these solutions together, I have the ability from one system to pivot left and right and understand the scope of that incident. In this case, because I understand that Barbara is part of that specific incident, and she's probably a key to starting the infiltration into my organization, and from here she moved, I can actually go directly into a user page and bring, this is a user page that brings information from multiple workloads. Okay, so I have here information from my login events, information from my device, information from my cloud app security, and even information from my email source here. And I can see that this user is very high. Well, we are using Barbara for most of our attacks and demos here. So week after week, she's very high. She's on the 92% of percentiles in the organization. There is a list of all the risky events and suspicious stuff that happened over that user. I can see that she logged in from multiple locations, which is a bad indication by itself. She's logged into a lot of resources. Here is a suspicious indication, which we saw in the other alerts, that she actually logged into Roberto's PC. We know she has now his credentials and she's able to log into his PC. From here, she moved into other domains. So actually, Roberto moved now because she now owns Roberto's ID. The devices that she's been logged into, as part of that time frame, etc. So there's a lot of information I can, all the open alerts that I have specifically about that user, impossible travel, risky sign-in, anonymous IP, all the stuff that we had on Barbara. And I can actually go into users and do something very interesting. So let's try to expand what we know about Barbara, because I understand now that I want to understand her activity a little bit deeper. And let's say I have questions that are beyond what I can get here, or I want to create a little bit deeper views of that. So I'm going to pivot from here to our Go Hunt capability, which is basically opening our hunting capability across the datasets. A few words on what we did here. We did a lot of work on our backend to actually normalize the data across email, identity, endpoints, and applications, all into a schema where alert is an alert, user is a user, device is a device, and everything can actually be joined into a single query. You can see here on the side that we actually bring into the schema alert information, evidence information, so all the entity types and everything that you can mesh from that incident. You see app and identity, so identity queries and events, application and file events. Inside the email, you have email post-delivery information that I can actually mesh into my query. I have email pre-delivery events. On the devices, I can look at very detailed device event, registry event, logon event, network connection events, and threat vulnerability if I want to check entities against what we know on the threat vulnerability, which is part of our Defender for Endpoint solution. So we're looking here at an automated, if you want, query that was created based on the context of what we're looking at. And this is actually looking at a timestamp of when that alert happened. It's looking at Barbara's ID. It's trying to search for all the device logging events, process event, device network events, all around that 1 hour plus hour to that alert. And I'm getting here all these events across all these. Let's go and try to narrow and look at something more specific. Okay, so in this case, let's look at identity queries. So what identities did Barbara query during that time frame? Let's expand a little bit on the time frame just to be safe in terms of when they run that on the attack scenario. So we're going to expand that a little bit, and let's run that again. So now we're actually looking at a more narrow question, right? Or what are all the identity query events run by Barbara within that time frame? And I can see that she was looking at Harry Gubbels information and domain admin information, and I can customize my query here. I can go and create a detection rule with a range of users or with a range of information that will then capture that in the future. This is an amazing tool that we actually are giving you, because think about it, all the raw data is now available for you to actually write your custom detection rules and take custom actions against that. I wanted to give you an example of a cross. So I'm going to discard the changes for the sake of other people that are doing that demo. Here is an example of something that you can do over that data that joins two of the worlds together. Okay, so we're looking at emails, right, in the last 30 days. We're looking at specific domains. In this case, the demo environment is quite small, so I'm looking at all the domains that are not part of what I call my organization, and I'm going to project all that information, but I'm also going to look and see if I had any logon event that followed that event after someone received that external email. And that's kind of, if you want, a interesting question to ask, right? Because I'm looking for a very suspicious email. It has at least one link in it, so it has one URL in it. And after someone received that type of email, there was a logon event, and I can see the email, I can see where it came from, I can see the logon time, the account name, the timestamp, and all the information. I can go on. There is another one that we can actually run here. This is to see if there was actually any file download. Follow that, and then we're actually now looking for something a little bit more sophisticated, right? We're looking for a very specific email range with a login event, and then was a download or maybe a payload onto that, and I can see what happened here, the file path, where it will download, and customize my queries according to that. This can be turned into a detection rule, have define what's the name of that alert. You know your environment better than anyone else. You may have your own intel that's coming in that's specific to your vertical where you want to write a very specific detection. You may know that a certain group of people is not supposed to be outside of the country in a certain time, and you want to capture if they're logging in. So you can create your own traps that are very specific to your organization based on that. You can also very easily, using Go Hunt, go and expand on an existing incident and go ask more questions. With that, I want to show you the Action Center, where what we're doing here is we're taking all the auto IR alerts. Let me close a few tabs here. One moment. Sorry, go back to the Action Center. And this is the one-stop shop for all the automated investigation that took place and the actions that you need to take. So I'm looking at the history here, and I want to filter. Let's filter on type of actions, on quarantine files. So let's look at all the auto IR that happened and where we took an action to quarantine a file. To see if, let's say I'm going in and auditing what's happened and I was running in fully automated and I wanted to make sure that nothing happened. So I'm going to look at, let's say, suspicious machine. So I want to look and see what happened on the DC because I want to make sure that we didn't block anything or cause any damage. So I'm now filtering down to all the quarantine file that happened automatically on that specific DC, and I can get more information on that specific file that run. It was the asset is on full auto. The health status is active. When did it happen? More information that I want to know about that specific action that happened. And with that, I think I covered the main building blocks, I think, of what you get out of mashing these solutions together. Wanted just to point out that Microsoft 365 Defender will work either if you had only one of the detection sources applied. So if you just had, for example, Microsoft Defender for Office 365, the logic of the incident will still help you collapse incidents that have common case, so they're part of the same campaign, into a single incident. Even if you didn't have the other solutions smashed in, add to it the endpoint protection, you will get more visibility to what happened in the endpoint and be able to stitch together. But the capability of actually creating the incident, condensing all the auto IR, and then having advanced hunting above your data will work, whether if you have one of the solutions, two of the solutions, or all of them. It's also part of the solution. There is no, you don't need to configure that or turn that on. The solutions, once they are in your same tenant, are working together and connected. There is no extra deployment or configuration needed for that. It's all part of the solution. And you get all this out of the box. Last words of out of the box. A lot of you are probably doing that, and that's where the industry was working in the last, I would say, 5 years. You're building a lot of that over your SIEM, source solutions, in-house solutions, meaning you have a team dedicated to actually design and write these correlations and then build playbooks and trying to stay ahead of the curve by actually understanding new attack vectors, changing in your environment, changing in the detection sources that are happening. Microsoft 365 Defender gives you all that out of the box. The raw data you can go and hunt out of the box without needing to pipe it into a single location and then normalize the data and go hunt over it. The ability to stitch all these smart correlations. This is not only naive correlations. We do much more than just alert to alert correlation. We'll do event to event correlation. We'll do actually logic of advanced hunting inside of the incident logic. So by looking at one alert, the system will go and ask questions to actually understand if this progressed somewhere. Automation kicking in with playbooks that we keep updating based on things that we are learning in the world, in the wild, and how we can auto-remediate them for you that are getting maintained and updated currently all the time by our research team. All that comes out of the box as part of Microsoft 365 security. And with that, I'll hand it back to Adam to show you where you can learn more about that solution, and then use the rest of the time to probably take questions and address some of the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome, Z. That was great. Really, really exciting to see Microsoft 365 Defender in action. And there were some great questions. Really appreciate the engagement from the folks on the meeting. Thank you again for that. There were a couple things that Zvi that we saw kind of asked a few different times. The first one, you may want to weigh in. There were some great answers as well in the Q&A, but there were the question that was asked a couple times, which was around, hey, what's the difference between Microsoft 365 Defender and Sentinel? And I think the quick answer, and you can expand on this, Zvi, if you'd like to, but the quick answer here is really that, like, Microsoft 365 Defender is your place to hunt and to do this automated security, depth investigation for your Microsoft 365 workloads, for things that are part of that Microsoft 365 environment. The Sentinel is a SIEM. It is the place where you feed all the rest of your event information, and that kind of governs across all the rest of the things. That's a super high level. I don't know if you'd want to add to that, Zvi, but that was a really common question.
Yes, that's a question I get a lot on our executive briefing center when I talk to CISOs. Yeah, and let me give you two views of the same, and there's I think there's a dedicated session that talks about the integration. But look at it from 2 points of view. Sentinel is your single source of truth if you want to pipe in, as Adam mentioned, all the information, all the event logs that you're getting from third-party software, from Microsoft software into one place. Incident coming from Microsoft Defender, Microsoft 365 Defender is one entity that you're pushing into Sentinel, and that's where you cross that information. That's where you manage the queue of your work. That's where you are able to correlate Microsoft incident, Microsoft Defender 365 Defender incident with additional data that you might have, LOB application, network tools, any other tool. You may not have a Microsoft full stack, only parts of it, and you want to mash that information together. You will start your work usually. Most of the SOCs that we visit will live inside of that queue of that SIEM, write their prioritization and their methods and how to manage the queues over there, resolve the incidents, and assign them to different teams. And we'll probably deep dive into Microsoft 365 Defender to do a deeper look in what I just did in investigating that specific incident over the properties that are available on Microsoft. The other way around, I'm Microsoft 365 Defender engineer. When I finish my presentation, a lot of the customers say, okay, but I want to bring into your incident logic my Palo Alto network logs, for example. Okay, and I want to correlate them. Can you do that for me and get that feed into you? And I'll say my extension tool for that, my third-party connector, is Sentinel. Okay, so we will always look at Sentinel for pulling in additional information to augment on the data that we can give you out of the box on Microsoft properties. And we will try to give you as much as we can out of the box on the properties that we can control out of the Microsoft stack. So hopefully that answers kind of where we see the relation happening. That connector, by the way, between these two solutions will allow you to seamlessly resolve the incident or alerts on Sentinel, get them resolved on the endpoint. That connection is bidirectional. Advanced hunting over the data, if you decide to pump all the data from Microsoft 365 Defender into your Sentinel SIEM solution, you can. We will build over time a query parity, so you can actually run the same query over these two data sources. Of course, if you then added to that a third party, then that hunting happens inside of Sentinel. Hopefully, that clarified that.
Yeah, that's helpful, Svi. Thank you. The other question, kind of thematic question that we saw was around everyone's favorite licensing. A lot of questions on like, what do you have to own to get all the goodness that we're showing here and some various products there. Just to be clear, so Microsoft 365 Defender shows up in a couple of places, right? So we have Microsoft 365 E3 license, which includes Office E3, Windows E3, and EMS E3. And then there's Microsoft 365 E5, and that includes Office E5, Windows E5, and EMS E5. And so if you, the capabilities around Microsoft Defender for endpoints and Microsoft Defender for Office 365, as well as Microsoft Defender for identity, those are all capabilities that are included in that E5 package. So that's the offering that most of the capabilities you saw were showcased. Everyone has access to the Defender portal that owns elements of these capabilities, but really it gets richer and more integrated the more of these services you have turned on and working together. Just as a point of clarity, I wanted to figure out, just be clear on what you have to buy to get what things. And there were some other questions on like, how do I bridge this gap? You know, we talked about Defender being about Microsoft 365 and Azure Defender. And the Azure Defender is kind of a different, like a different thing that you license, right? Like on the Microsoft 365, you pay for your users, and then on your Azure side, you pay basically consumption. And so on the Azure Defender piece of it, it's really a per VM model. And then, you know, your partner or your account team will be able to help you find the right licensing elements to get exactly what you need. There are sort of step ups and bridges and how to get to the pieces that you need. So you can buy it all together in these E5 bundles, or you can buy each piece of it separately. Just wanted to take a second to clarify that because it's always a great question. With that, I wanted to just wrap us up, around the learning path. You know, where do you go from here with your depth learning? One of the questions you can see in the Q&A, I pointed people to our virtual hub as well. I'll reflag that link in there. But there you can go get additional depth content here, as well as things like interactive guides. So you can actually follow along and almost have a video presentation of very similar to what Zvi just walked us through. Those get updated really frequently, and so we'll always have those up to date, continuing, you know, as we land new capabilities and features. While we don't have this live demo available for everybody to access, those things are great substitutes to help you get up and ready on the learning side of it. And so for those that want to spend some additional time now, you know, we have this time sort of blocked off for the next about 20 minutes or so. And so if you wanted to dive into actually one of these learning paths, this is the one that we're suggesting here. You know, we think about this idea of defending against threats with Microsoft Threat Protection, now Microsoft 365 Defender. This is a great place to get started. And as you take a look here, if I can get my slide to advance, there we go. There's 4 chapters inside of this threat protection learning path, 4 modules, if you will. And so you can understand that each of these modules include a variety of things like videos or written content or links to other depth elements you can go and consume at your leisure. And then, you know, the nice thing that I like is that you can see about how long each of these modules take to complete. You know, if you need to budget an hour or 2 hours or even a half an hour, you can kind of chunk that out and determine it, you know, on your schedule. As you can see, these 4 elements that exist today, there's an introduction, which kind of covers a lot of the stuff that I covered at the beginning of this session around what Microsoft 365 protection or Microsoft 365 Defender does, what's included, those kinds of things. And then you can deep dive into additional chapters from there on endpoint protection with Microsoft Defender for endpoint, Office 365 protection for Defender for Office 365, and then identity protection with Microsoft Defender for identity. So each of those 4 elements of this learning path are great places to go get started. You know, again, as we flip to the next slide here, you can find this link, and I'll pop this into the chat window here as well. If I can copy it and paste it, we'll get there in a second. I'll put that into the Q&A window, and you can take a look at that. That'll take you directly to the module here. That takes about 28 minutes to complete, and if you want to, you can walk through that. With that, I do just want to pause. I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule. We can give you 15 or 20 minutes back, so you can go grab some lunch or a snack before you get to your next Ignite session, and just encourage you to go and learn about the rest of the security capabilities we have at Microsoft that we'll be talking through at Ignite. There's a variety of what we call Ask the Expert sessions. So if you take a look and even just search for XDR in the Ignite catalog, you'll find an Ask the Expert session or two there that are optimized for giving you more exposure to experts like we have on the call today. So you can go and do that as well. So with that, I am just going to pause really quickly and see if there's any questions, particularly on the learning path element of this, that we'll want to answer. And I don't see any here.
Adam?
Yeah.
I thought, I don't know if one of the SMEs on the call had a very interesting maybe question on a specific workload or something they want to call out. Maybe give an opportunity. Is there anyone of the experts? I think there's a question they want to answer a little bit broadly that came up.
Yeah, it's a great one. Yeah, so if there are specific workload questions you're saying, go ahead and pop those in. We'll have, again, we want to make sure we use as much of this time as we can. And there was a question in here about where do I go to get access to this stuff? Like, where can I see it? I talked about how you can, you get access to the value that you have, that you own. You can go to security.microsoft.com. If you're an admin, that's the place you can go. Heike was kind enough to put that into the chat, the Q&A window there as well. So you can go get started today. I think the other great place to start too is SecureScore. You can go to SecureScore, which is our report card, basically. It's also part of security.microsoft.com, and it gives you recommendations of things to go do next if you're just getting started. All right, any of the Q&As, Zvi, that you see in there? Oh, thanks for popping in that threat intro, aka link. That's the place where you can go get started with this learning path if people are interested.
Well, actually going through the answers, and I see great answers from the moderators. Thank you, Heike, Jeff, Ty, everyone that's on the answering these questions. I'm good. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, and there's just a couple questions about,
I can take that. There's the last one. I thought we answered that as well. That came from Tim, asking if we can manage all these alerts through a single interface. Now they have a Defender solution. So the answer is it's coming, and we are just a few weeks behind the corner on that. I think one of the sessions is announcing a lot of the new stuff that's coming out. We're already running private preview of that. Expect a public preview shortly. Single API to Microsoft 365 Defender to allow you bidirectional API to raw data, events, incidents, and also into your hunting. So you can actually use APIs into hunting and auto IR. All that is coming as a single connector. You will not need to use individual connectors as you've been doing so far with the Microsoft product. See one product for M365 security.
We went with the MS365 Defender APIs live last week.
For private or public?
Public. I will add the link again. Someone else asked earlier, so I have the link somewhere here. So coming up.
Great.
Yeah, so the innovation is coming fast and furious in this space. It's a huge investment area for Microsoft. So again, you can go take a look at that. I think I grabbed the security hub. So I'll just make a quick announcement. You can go to the Security and Compliance Hub, or Security, Identity, and Compliance Hub, and you can take a look at you can get additional data on, there's some training around threat hunting. You can find some of that stuff. So great. I think with that, I think we've answered just about all the questions. And again, I just really want to thank everyone for coming to this all digital Ignite and participating with us with the workshop as we're sort of figuring out how to work all this stuff together with you. We're really excited that you took the time to learn more about Microsoft 365 Defender and our threat protection capabilities. Do make sure that you take a look at the follow-on kind of items. Go visit the virtual hub. Take a look at the rest of the sessions within the Microsoft 365 and Azure Security Catalog. Attend those Ask the Expert sessions. We want to make sure you get a lot of opportunities to to get all of your questions answered. So with that, I just want to thank everyone again on behalf of Zvi and all the rest of the engineering team that we had answering questions furiously in the background or feverishly in the background. I just want to say thanks again and enjoy the rest of your Ignite experience.